Tractors rumble. Workers pour concrete from a rotating cement truck. A giant drill is carving a hole into the beach. On the scenic stretch of coast where San Diego County meets Tijuana, Mexico, the U.S. Border Patrol is making the border fence taller and thicker, impenetrable, it hopes, to drug smugglers and illegal crossers. But if you look closely through the vertical bars and double mesh, you can just make out a pyramid-shaped monument on the other side. As you can see, the border fence used to run right through the monument that marks the exact boundary between Mexico and the United States. But the Border Patrol has now moved the fence a few feet to the north, meaning that the monument is left entirely on the Mexican side. And that's upset locals because for decades, loved ones living on opposite sides of the border used to meet at the monument to talk through the fence.
A border monument needs to be on the border, not just on one side or the other. It's a shared marker between two nations.
Jim Brown is an architect and member of Friends of Friendship Park, an advocacy group that wants to convince the Border Patrol to reconsider its fence design.
To have it, the fence jog around and have it be almost ownership by Mexico doesn't make any emotional sense, makes no physical sense, makes no common sense.
There are 276 of these monuments along the border from San Diego to El Paso. They were installed by Mexican and American surveyors starting in 1850 after a treaty ended the Mexican-American War, and the two countries agreed to define their shared border. Today, some are in urban areas, others in remote desert or on isolated mountain bluffs. They're owned by both countries. But in the last several years, an increasing number of these binational monuments have become more like national monuments, of Mexico alone. In 2006, Congress approved the construction of 700 miles of new fencing along the border, and as that fence has gone up, monuments have been left on the other side. The agency in charge of maintaining them is the International Boundary and Water Commission. The Border Patrol signed an agreement with them in 2008 to not disturb the monument while constructing its fence. So, in many places, like San Diego, it's built the fence a few feet north of the actual international boundary.
The fence itself is constructed inside the United States. The actual agreement between the International Boundary and Water Commission and Customs and Border Protection is that any type of construction around a monument would be set back 3 feet.
The Border Patrol also agreed to build doors into the barrier, as strange as that may sound. They're to allow for occasional maintenance of the monuments. David Taylor has been on a mission to photograph all 276 monuments since he realized the new fencing was going to make many of them inaccessible from the U.S.
I recognized the fact that the border was going to change as much in the early 2000s as it had in the previous 100 years, more in fact.
He believes the monuments, once a symbol of binational cooperation, have become casualties of the push for greater border enforcement.
It's one of those very unfortunate situations where this thing that's a part of our shared heritage with Mexico isn't easily accessible.
But Brown hopes to reverse that, at least in San Diego. He said he's come up with a relatively simple design change that would make the monument accessible from both sides. Jerry Conlon of the Border Patrol said the agency was always willing to listen.
But border security is always the main focus. That is our mission, securing our borders, protecting the United States.
But on the other side, visitors have already expressed their thoughts. An engraving on the monument warns vandals that defacing it is a crime punishable by the United States or Mexico. But someone recently used purple ink to cross out the words United States.